It's very good to have you here, sir. You know, we don't
Yes, ma'am.
take any pleasure in telling a story about police officers who don't perform as they're supposed to. We have done endless stories on the heroic performance of law enforcement. But that is not what happened here. And as he says, as the Texas DPS director, Steve McCraw, says, we have to understand what happened. We have to learn from this. But how is it possible that a school district safety officer holds people back when they have body armor and shields and weapons, and they're there to protect children who have none of the above?
Well, Martha, what is most alarming about the testimony that Director McCraw gave today was this information that door was never locked, likely never locked, because it was the strike plate that didn't work. I don't know. I didn't see all of the hearing today. I've been traveling, but I know that there were work orders put into the school from the teacher. I'm told that we have the evidence of that, showing that this teacher in that classroom asked for that door to be repaired. I don't know how long ago that request was there, but early on, we were beginning to hear that door malfunctioned. It took a while to get the evidence, and that's why I asked for our committee to be held in public so the people could hear everything. There have been too many behind closed doors discussions, meetings, hearings. The public needs to know everything. And Martha, you have to know today that this hearing and this evidence that door was unlocked is very, very hard for the families of these children and the teachers to hear.
But there were two doors that were unlocked because he went in the back door with no resistance, it appears. And this is during a period, because I remember getting an alert on my phone that said that there had been a shooting in this area. And that report was from the funeral home shooting where he fired shots initially, and that the school was in complete lockdown and that everyone was safe. That obviously couldn't have been farther from the truth. And what kind of lockdown has two open doors?
Martha, we put after Santa Fe in 2018, and I was there on that scene pretty early, and said that day that we need to reduce entrances and have locked doors. And I was actually ridiculed at that time. You know, the lieutenant governor thinks it's all about the doors. If doors are unlocked and open, it's all about the doors. Obviously, a lot of factors involved, but we can spend, and we put $100 million into school safety. If you can do everything in the world, you can train all the officers, you can have everyone aware. But if doors are unlocked and don't function, that is a major breakdown. And on that other door, Martha, in that case, that door was unlocked. We're still finding out who unlocked it. There was a rock put in it. It was propped open. They were waiting for a delivery for a class. When the teacher saw that there was a gunman, that teacher kicked the rock out and that door closed, and that door did not lock. So this is just hard for this family to hear. It's hard for us to hear. And I'll tell you, Martha, I was there at that first briefing 22 hours after the shooting for the first press conference. None of this was told to us. None of this.
Well, let's talk about
either misled. We were either misled, or we were just, the evidence was never put forward.
Well, and did you all jump the gun in that news conference is my question, because Governor Abbott said law enforcement did what they do. They showed amazing courage by running toward the gunfire for the singular purpose of saving lives. It is a fact. So, we know that we were all getting mixed messages at that point.
Sure, including me.
Did you jump the gun in terms of the interpretation at that first news conference?
No, Martha, we went there and we had about an hour and a half to 2 hour briefing before we held the press conference. And one of the questions was there an SRO officer? And we were told through secondhand, third hand, that yes, there was an SRO officer. They engaged. It was a little unclear. Did they engage with gunfire? But we were told that turned out not to be true. Right. We were also had been told, there was the narrative that the Border Patrol, there was a kind of a Walker, Texas Ranger, kind of Chuck Norris hero that went right in and took out the shooter. Well, that wasn't true. The Border Patrol were very brave and they did it an hour later. But that narrative, and no one ever said, no, that's not true. Yeah. And then we were never told that they were waiting in the hall for an hour to go in.
While this little girl is calling
after the fact.
911 and asking for somebody to please help. And there are 19 officers in the hallway with full armor and shields, as we can now see. And I take no pleasure in, I'm not criticizing them. We have to lay out what happened so that we can fix
We owe it to the family, Martha.
This problem. Absolutely, we do owe it to the families. Quick question for you. Arredondo, Chief Arredondo, who is the head of the school safety police in the town, really everything got dumped on him today in this hearing, that it was all his fault, that he was clearly the person who should have been in command. He didn't even bring his radio inside. He didn't have a key, a master key for these doors. Can you tell me today that is accurate, or is the blame going to shift again? Do you feel confident in what you heard today?
Well, I'm totally confident. I've been in touch with with Colonel McCall, and I wanted this evidence instead of leaking it out. I hate these leaks because one day this story is leaked out, and the next day there's a new story and a change in this newspaper and that newspaper. I wanted it all out in a public hearing at one time of where we are today. This is an ongoing investigation. It's not completed, but hundreds of interviews have been done by the Texas Rangers. I'm sure the federal government, the FBI, are doing the same thing. So we have a lot more information. Yes, you don't like to point the finger at any one person, but we have to know the truth for the families, and also so we can find the mistakes that were made to prevent them in the future. But the fact that that door, the biggest testimony today, was that that door was not functioning in that classroom and was unlocked, and they could have gone in at any moment.
And that's what they're trained to do. They're trained to go forward. And, you know, Arredondo said that they didn't have shields, which also was completely debunked by the photographs, which are time-stamped, that we now have as well. Who's going to where's the accountability going to fall here? Because, as Garrett Tenney just said, he's refused to be questioned past an interview that he did about a week ago.
Well, I can say this, Martha. I'm confused by his behavior, because in that briefing, by the way, there was no information coming from that office or that team. And then he refused to be interviewed. And then he said he was being interviewed. And then he did an interview with a print online newspaper here, which is opposite of everything you heard today. Then he did a closed hearing today. So far, he's not shown to be very credible. Most of what he has said has been debunked by actual evidence, video evidence of what happened. They never tried that door.
So is he going to be fired? Is he going to be fired? And will there be any further measures taken against him?
Well, the first thing, he works for the school. He works for the school district. He's the police chief of the school district, and that will be their decision. That will be their decision. But we are going to look at, in this legislative process, we'll have another hearing tomorrow. It's still going on probably till midnight tonight or longer. We'll continue to look at this. We'll get to the bottom of it so that these mistakes, these are preventable mistakes. We have to, look, we've got to convince our teachers in our schools the door should be locked at all times. Period. No exceptions.
Well, we
have to look at the infrastructure of the schools, Martha.
They said the teachers did a much better job than the law enforcement did in this case. Excuse me for interrupting. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, thank you very much, sir. And it's good to have you with us. We're going to stay on this story. These families, I can't imagine what it's like for them to hear this information and to know that some of those children were alive during those 77 minutes. Sir, thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Sorry, I couldn't hear you at the end.
That's okay. Thank you very much. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, appreciate him joining us today.